Joining me right now is UFC heavyweight Parker Porter. Parker, how you doing today, man?
I'm good, man. Everything's peachy.
All right. Good to hear. Let's kick it off with your last performance against Josh Parisian. You picked up your first win in the octagon. When you look back at that performance, it's been a few months now. What did you think about the performance you had?
I thought it was worthy of a first victory in the UFC. It's definitely a solid way to make a statement, and yeah, I feel good about it.
Other than, making a statement, like if you could pinpoint anything that you did not like, about it. Of course, there's always going to be things that you want to adjust and improve on. Is there anything from that fight?
I should have finished them. I should have finished. There were a couple of opportunities where I could have finished the fight that I just didn't. And I've been working on stuff like that to, just kind of fine tune the adjustments I need to in my submission game and my cardio and my striking, stringing together combinations and stuff like that, to make sure that next time I have the opportunity that I did, that I can capitalize on it.
When you headed into your UFC debut compared to your last fight, it was completely polar opposites of like the situation you were in. So was the confidence like completely different heading into that fight?
Yeah, it was. It was a completely different level of confidence. It was, I mean, like I was 100% confident in what I was going to do. I was a little bit nervous because, like if I did lose, then I'd be on a 2-fight slide. And, that's not usually a situation that a lot of guys can come back from, especially with their first 2 fights. So I was putting a lot of pressure on myself in that sense. But I had a full camp behind me. I came in the best shape I'd ever been in. And I was totally psyched and focused going into that.
Yeah, and you overcame some adversity in the beginning of the fight, and then you was on cruise control, man. How does it feel to be on cruise control during a fight? It must feel good.
It's amazing. That was probably the first time where I was just kind of like, just totally felt natural, kind of like, just smooth. Everything was like kind of just out for a stroll kind of situation. I didn't feel super stressed out. I was just doing my thing and I felt super comfortable.
All right, now you're 1-1 in the UFC. What have you learned since joining the organization that was not really expected?
What that I wasn't expected to learn. I definitely where I belong, like I belong at this level of competition. I belong, amongst the best heavyweights in the world.
Do you think every fighter goes through that? When they first enter the UFC, is like, of course, in interviews you're gonna be confident, you're gonna say what you need to say, but then is there that little bit of doubt, like, do I belong here? Even if you win too, because there's that next level.
But he has that kind of little bit of a doubt in there, like, especially in the beginning, like, do I, am I in the right place? Am I doing the right thing? Do I really belong here? Even if they say they don't, everybody at least thinks it once.
Now, I saw that you wanted to return March at the latest. Was it just difficult to get matched up?
It was, and it just it had to wait for the right opportunity to present itself as well. I had an opportunity for a really quick turnaround, but unfortunately, after the Parisian fight, I needed X-rays on my hand to make sure everything was good, and I wasn't going to be cleared in time to take the opportunity they gave me in the beginning.
Okay. So the hand, how's that? What did you have any like recovery to it?
And they think I might have had like a small bone bruise or something like that, and they were trying to see if I would maybe be able to do like a 2-week turnaround kind of thing, but it wasn't going to work out. I needed a little time to rehab my hand a little bit, but everything's good to go now.
How much does a hand injury hinder, just training overall? Is it something that you have to make major adjustments with?
Not hugely. I mean, it wasn't such a traumatic injury that I couldn't like use my hand. It just like, going full power on the pads or the bag or anything like that. I was like, nah, it just doesn't feel quite right. Like I can't really, put 100% effort into it like I normally would.
Yeah, definitely. I think, me, I'm not a fighter, so if I had a little bruise on my hand, I'd probably pitch out on everything. You know what I mean? That's just me.
Okay.
But anyways, and you're a heavyweight. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's just crazy power in every punch.
but you feel it a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, one thing that I noticed in your post-fight interview when you're holding the mic, your hands are just Massive. Are they like? Did they tell you like your hands are probably some of the biggest in the heavyweight division?
They're like, yeah, like the second biggest. I think I had what did I have, 3X or 4X gloves?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I saw it, I was like, man, it reminds me of Shane Carwin because they would always say that he had just
He's
massive hands.
I heard he's still like had like the biggest hands out of UFC. I think he had like a 5X, something crazy.
Yeah.
But
Just
yeah, no, I've just always, I mean, I've never really thought my hands were that big, but I guess they're wide, they're big.
yeah, yeah. It's just like it pops out on the screen when you're holding the mic. The mic looked like a lollipop, like in your head.
Joking around with my wife about that too. I'm like, the mic looks like a toy in my hand. I'm like, what is
All right, now let's head into your next fight, man. April 17th, you're taking on Chase Sherman, a guy that is a known veteran in the division.
Yep.
What was your reaction when you got this fight put together?
I mean, it's the same reaction every time. Just
Mhm.
get to work, watch a video, formulate the game plan, and start training. You know, take too different of an approach or have like excitement or anything. It's all just on to the next one kind of attitude for me.
All right. When you go study Sherman, he's unique in some way because he did have another run in the UFC prior to this run that he's currently on. Do you go back and watch those fights, or you just focus on the recent performances?
But more or less, just to get a general idea to see, what's changed, what hasn't changed, and pick up on any kind of possible tendencies or you know, um, looking for those chinks in the armor.
He had a successful return, in his last fight to the UFC against Ike Villanueva. How did you think he looked? Were you impressed?
I actually didn't get a chance to watch that fight.
Mhm.
Hey, I watch film. A lot of my training partners and my coaches do that, and I just
Mhm.
kind of go mostly with what they say to do. So I didn't actually see that fight.
Is that better for you instead of just like digging just too deep into it and thinking too much about another guy?
For me personally, if I get too, I don't like to get wrapped up in
Mhm.
the hype and the trash talking and watching too many videos and stuff because you have a way of just kind of psyching yourself out. I've got a really solid team behind me, so I have 100% faith in their what they see, what they can work with, and we talk about different stuff, and they'll be like, this is what happens a lot, and your guy does this or guy does that, so we should try this, and then just during training and repping things out, we'll kind of brainstorm with each other about the way things should flow.
If anybody's been following you on social media, they've seen you pictured at a number of different gyms training. Where have you been training for this upcoming fight?
So I am in the process of opening my own location, actually, and getting some classes going there and stuff. But I am also exclusively with Thornton's Martial Arts over in Hartford. I got a couple of different spots of friends that I train with. I train with the Viana brothers down in Watertown there. I've known them since like years ago when I was training with Glover Teixeira a bunch. I met them down there, and now they're a little bit closer. So, unfortunately, Glover's still just a little too far out of my for a regular trip, but they're a lot closer, and I've been getting some good work in with them. And just generally anywhere that I can go, man. I try to mix it up as much as possible, and just establish those good connections.
Speaking of good connections, Ed Thornton, your coach, talk about him and what he has contributed to your development.
Um, Man, I've only been working with Ed for a short period of time, but the striking part of my game has always been kind of a strong point for me. And I've felt kind of stagnant in my development for the last couple of years. But in the past few months of working with Ed, I feel like I've really just put a lot of things together and started learning new stuff again. I haven't felt like I was really learning a lot for a while. And I just love being a student of the game. I'm always looking to learn something new, whether it's the same thing but just a little bit different, or like different ways to kind of fine tune stuff or work speed or power or whatever the drills might be. And he's really good at kind of like dissecting things and helping me tweak my game just enough, and I think we gave a good showing of that in the last fight.
Ahead of your last fight, you were talking about how gyms were opening and closing and opening and closing. This it's just real bad. You know what I mean? When it's like that, especially during the training camp. How has it been?
Everything's been pretty consistent, but
Mhm.
we've been kind of like really sticking to just staying with the people that we know, even though we were like kind of bouncing around a little bit here and there. It's like one training session over here, one training session over there. None of the gyms have really been shutting down. That whole thing that you're talking about really is kind of what started to lead to me trying to get my own space going, so that even during uncertain times like this, I could guarantee that I at least had a space to go and train myself.
Well, your own space, what's it called? Do you have a name for
Game yet?
it?
It's just yeah, my spot, like Parker's mixed martial arts or whatever you want to call it for now. We don't actually have a name on it yet.
All right, all right. Well, I guess you could keep it simple. You don't need to go all fancy with the names and stuff, right?
You know, be too cliche and just be like, oh, Parker's, you know, or like I'd like to think thing with some significance and some kind of meaning to it, you know.
All right, for sure, for sure. So is that in the process? How long have you been wanting to do that?
Well, I think, at least for most of the people that I talk to that have been doing this for as long as I have, that's always been kind of like most people's end game is like, after I'm done competing, I want to coach, I want to open up my own place and get things going and stuff. So that's been something that I've been wanting to do for a while now. And the whole situation with the pandemic, and then really having like a necessity for a space of my own to train during the pandemic when I got the call up for the UFC, really kind of just pushed everything in the right direction and got the ball rolling on that.
So once you get everything settled, then are you gonna pretty much end up just having everybody come to you and just having like a personalized camp?
I would like that, but
Mhm,
I'm not so selfish that they'll only train with people that'll come to me. I'm
mhm.
plenty good with going to other people. You know, it's a two-way street. You got a little bit of a give and take there.
Oh, of course, of course. Now, Sherman, he's action packed. You throw those hammers, man. What kind of style are you expecting, and how do you see yourself winning this fight?
I'm expecting him to come out guns blazing. You know, like he does. He's got some quick hands. He's got some good boxing, kickboxing. Um, you know, I just just like any heavyweight fight, any heavyweight showdown, the trick is to really make sure you don't get clipped with that one you don't see coming. So I don't know, man. I think I think it's going to be a good fight. You know, the goal is to come out and see where it goes, really. But I can see this fight being a finish one way or another.
I think the next step for you would be to get that highlight reel finished. You know, what I mean, you got a good decision win. Now it's the highlight.
Now this one I'm looking. I would like to possibly get myself a performance bonus. This
Yeah,
gotta
yeah.
go.
Well, it will come in handy with the new gym. Dana White, you gotta listen. Let's do it. Let's do it. Now, I just want to pick your brain about a couple topics in the heavyweight division. Last weekend there was one of the biggest fights in heavyweight history with Francis versus Stipe. Did you expect that to happen? Were you shocked when he defended the takedown? That's the question.
I was, yeah. I think everybody was shocked, but impressed nonetheless. You know,
Mhm.
yo, it's that matchup is really like Stipe being the dominant champion that he is, and always such a class act. And then the same thing with Francis, the story that he's got going behind him, and the mutual respect that those two guys have for each other. You know, it's something I admire a lot, because you don't see as much of that anymore in the sport. And that's really like that's kind of example that I always used to uh, see when I first started following this kind of stuff, you know, back there in Randy Couture's era and Chuck Liddell, like those guys that were a little bit more martial arts based and just kind of like, nah, you know, I'm not really going to be here like running my mouth and doing this and doing that. I'm just going to let my hands do the talking on fight night. But that matchup it was incredible. And then, you know, I didn't see Francis winning that fight. I had Stipe pegged as my pick. Um, but you know, Francis did what he came to do and shock the world. And it's no secret that the man has scary power in his hands, and he figured out exactly how he should use that against Stipe to benefit him, and he got the job done that night.
And I also picked Stipe because I'm a history guy, like history repeats itself. So I thought it was gonna have the same thing was happen. And there was a lot of question marks with Francis, but now he gets to move on. He has that shiny belt. If you're the matchmaker, put on the matchmaker hat. Would you pick Don Jones or Derek Lewis as the next fight?
I don't know, man. It's a tough call because, you know, like obviously Jones has the resume that he has. I mean, he's arguably the greatest to ever do it at any weight class. But I think if we're going in terms of like people that have been in the division that earned their shots, I think Lewis is probably next in line as far as the people who have earned their shots. And Jones probably have to come in and fight 1 or 2 fights before getting a title shot. I mean, the dude is, I'm not taking anything away from him. He's one of the greatest to ever do it. He's probably the best. He's the GOAT. He really is. But I think out of anybody in the heavyweight division, if he steps up to the heavyweight division, he's got the best shot at dethroning Francis out of anybody else.
Definitely. Have you seen some of the videos that he's put out of his training? And a lot of people saying like he kind of looks slow.
He does look a little slow, but you also have to like, he's long, man. Like, it might look a little slow, but you have to realize how far those punches and traveling, and like how quick he really is. Like, it's, and how much more power he's got too now that he's walking around at like, what is he, like 250 or something like that? Yeah. He's been saying. So I've seen some of the videos of him pads and whatnot, but I don't think he looks slow. He's just not as snappy as he is at 205.
All right, that's a good point you're making. It does take a little longer to get those arms out there to hit the target, right? So yeah, that makes sense. Now for yourself, man, you know, do you take it one fight by fight, or do you have like a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year goal for yourself set up?
I don't really. I mean, I don't have a. My goal right now is to break into the top 10. I mean, I take everything one fight at a time. I don't ever look past my current opponent. I'm not like, you know, thinking about who to call out next. I just put the next person in front of me so I could take that target out and focus on that. But the goal is to, you know, my first goal was to get here, and I got here. You know, then the next goal was to get my first win, and now the goal is to rack up enough wins to break into that top 10.
It's a good time for the Northeast right now, you know. Even with Glover, he moved over there. He's been there for a while, and you said you've trained with him, and him about to get a title shot, and you got Calvin and Rob and Lausanne's people. You know, just a good time, man. A rebirth in a way, a resurgence.
Like it's kind of like that hidden talent pool that nobody really ever tapped into. Is all of a sudden somebody's like found it and like, yo, hey, there's some good stuff.
It's like that restaurant in the corner, you know, like you don't see it, but it's there and it's really good.
Yep.
For sure, for sure. All right, man. April 17th, UFC Fight Night, Las Vegas. Parker, thank you so much, man, for the time, and good luck on everything and all the best.
Shay, thank you so much.
Take a move in the ring. You can hit